Okay folks, it's Mike's Instant Movie Review, and as you can see I've got my nice mask on to prevent dying. There goes my mask. I caught it. I can still use it. These masks are a pain in the ass. You're not supposed to touch them at all and blah blah blah, but at least I'm trying, right folks? So very exciting. Just saw Rocky 1 and Rocky 2 in the theater today. Actually, I had to make a cross-continent, cross-city trip to see both Rocky 1 and 2 in the theater because they were in different theaters, different theater companies. This group, Cinemark, is a wonderful theater company, and Regal was the other one. Regal was showing Rocky 1 today. Tonight, I caught Rocky 2. My thoughts, my feelings. First time I've seen Rocky 1 and 2 in the theater. Definitely a better experience seeing pretty much any movie in a movie theater as opposed to in a TV environment or a home environment. Anytime you can see a movie on the big screen, that's the way to go. And that's why I'm doing these videos, to encourage you assholes to go out to the movie theater and support the relaunch of these theaters. Keep the film industry thriving. I know you all like to Netflix and chill. I'm looking for my vehicle as I'm talking and people are getting near me, which I don't like. But how did I think about Rocky 1 and 2? I liked them quite a bit. There are some little details that one can catch. I just wish these people would get away from me. That's one of the things about me, folks, that you might learn, is that I have this thing about human beings. I like them in limited amounts. And when I'm trying to speak to you, my loyal YouTube watcher and listener, I don't want people in real life near me at all. So that's sometimes hard to do when you're at a public place like a movie theater. So I realize the quandaries that I put myself in. I can even see fucks. There's the movie theater. So Rocky 1, first thing I noticed, an obscure little thing. One of Apollo's guys, I think his name is Tony, is actually in the audience watching Rocky fight. What's that guy who he fights in the first fight? I always forget his name. Snake or something, or whatever. Gomez or Snake or something. When Rocky's fighting that first fight, Tony, who was Apollo's guy, the bald guy with the mustache, who you see in all the Rocky movies pretty much, at least the first 4 or 5, that guy is in the audience watching Rocky fight in that dank thing. Now, if any of you folks ever played like the PlayStation 2 Rocky game, which was awesome at the time, you might know who I'm talking about. I want to start the ignition. God, I'm afraid to even start the ignition because it might kill this video, so I guess I can't. So I'll just sit here and be warm and uncomfortable for you. What else? Put a light on the situation. Rocky 1. I mean, it really is better on the big screen. Great movie. Do I have any particular insights? Just the fact that Tony's in the audience. There was a child in the theater. I will admit that this I didn't like. Some family had to bring their fucking kids, and the children were way too young to be going. Maybe they weren't too young, but I don't know if it was a boy or a girl, was just talking the whole goddamn time. And it's just like, okay, folks, you're trying to educate your children about film and Rocky, but do you have to at my expense? So I didn't like that. But I mean, just people with their children are like people that own dogs. They always expect the world to appreciate their dog or their child, but we don't. We really don't. I mean, other people don't want to hear your child talk during Rocky, and we don't want to see your dog shit in the public park or on the beach. So please, clean up after your fucking dogs and put duct tape on your child's mouth in the theater. I'm just kidding. It's a joke. Don't do that. Don't kill your child so he doesn't talk during Rocky. But you might want to when I'm in the theater. What else? it's a good movie. I mean, the whole thing with Rocky, telling the street urchin about the horror, that was pretty intense. I mean, that's not a Me Too scene right now. Now, is it? That's pretty hardcore. And of course, for those of you that know, that character will come back in Rocky Balboa, which is the 6th Rocky film. I guess moving forth to Rocky 2, I mean, what's some of the things that I'm catching on these little insider operations? For instance, the whole nickname of the Italian Stallion. Now, of those that you might know this, that Rocky Balboa, or Sylvester Stallone, the actor who plays Rocky, was in a pornography film, Pornography, which was called Italian Stallion, I believe. Now, I don't know if that film was labeled Italian Stallion after the Rocky movies came out, or if that's what it was called originally. So I don't know if Rocky using that nickname, Italian Stallion, was a self-reflective joke, a joke on himself, or if those pornographers labeled their porn movie with Stallone, Italian Stallion, after the fact. I don't know. It could go either way. But it's funny if Stallone put the Italian Stallion nickname in there as a self-referential joke. And I don't know if it was porn or softcore, but it's just an urban legend that Howard Stern explored many years ago, back when Howard Stern wasn't a sellout. What else? It's pretty interesting stuff. I think the one scene that kind of motivated me or intrigued me was the Rocky, Mickey is coming to Rocky's home, his shitty little apartment, and trying to be his manager, kid. And Rocky, why didn't you be my manager 10 years ago?
Kid, I didn't know. Who would have thought you'd get a chance at the world title?
And so it's just this scene that you can kind of take Rocky's side. It's like, hey, Mick, where the fuck were you 10 years ago when I was asking for help? Oh, I was too busy with these other assholes in the gym. Then Rocky goes out, and kind of an interesting choice. Rocky goes out into the street to approach Mick. They shake hands like gentlemen. And so we don't really see what Rocky said to Mick at that point. We don't know, but they shook hands and they go into business together. And we all know what happens. Some of the things like the boxing scenes in these Rocky movies, they really are better than any real boxing fight you'll ever see. That's the magic of cinema and the editing and the music and so forth. And even the Creed movies, moving forward 20 or 30 years, the Creed movies have had good boxing scenes. But the only fights that are comparable for those that are looking for real live boxing matches that were somewhat like these fights, I might suggest to you checking out a couple of things. Evander Holyfield versus Riddick Bowe, 1, 2, and to a lesser degree 3. They fought 3 times. So Bowe versus Holyfield from the 90s. Three really cool fights, or good fights. Lennox Lewis against Evander Holyfield. So it is Riddick Bowe versus Evander Holyfield, 3 fights. Lennox Lewis versus Evander Holyfield, 2 fights. Those were great fights. That's 5 great fights of heavyweights. Some people, sing a song about Mike Tyson. I particularly don't. But if you want to see Tyson in the James Buster Douglas versus Mike Tyson fight, February of 1990, you can check out Mike Tyson versus Wheezer Waddick, 2 fights from, I think, 91. The Holyfield-Tyson fights aren't bad. But I would probably start, if you want to see some guys kicking the shit out of each other, Evander Holyfield versus Riddick Bowe, 1 and 2. And if you finish that trilogy, then move on to Lennox Lewis versus Holyfield. Now, of course, that's all 90s stuff. If you want to go way deeper than that, you've got the Rumble in the Jungle. You've got Ali versus Frazier 3 times. You've got Ali versus George Foreman. The video footage is probably not as good from those fights, but you be the judge. I think you did have Howard Cosell commentating some of those fights. But honestly, it's hard to match the cinematic because the boxing in the Rocky movies are always better because you don't have to sit through a whole fight. They just start beating the shit out of each other. Yes, I know it's rigged. I know it's a fucking movie and a script. I'm just saying, cinematically, for many people, watching a Rocky movie is more fun than watching a boxing match. I'm just being honest. These Tyson Fury fucks and all these guys, these Deontay Wilders, all these chumps, Klitschko, never did it for me, folks. Moving forth, Rocky 2. Interesting that, that one of the John Tony guy, if that's his name, the mob boss, the small town Philadelphia mob boss. His assistant tells Rocky to take his date to the zoo. Now, many of you will know why, and I'm afraid to even say so, but he says retards like the zoo. I heard Adrian's retarded. No, it's not very nice to say that these days, but it's interesting that in Rocky 2, guess where Rocky takes Adrian, the first date of the movie, to the zoo. And what does he do? He proposes. So it's kind of a nice little insider thing. I never thought about. The whole insult was take your girl who's retarded to the zoo in Rocky 1, and then Rocky proposes to Adrian at the zoo. He gets the tiger jacket, which is, to me, clearly a reference to the tiger in the zoo when he proposes to Adrian. I mean, didn't you see that as a reference? I mean, I did this time. All these little things I caught. Maybe other people have explored this. It makes me think back to all the wonderful things. The score, the soundtrack is great. You see Frank Stallone, Rocky's brother, singing, by the drum, which is kind of a weird thing if you think about it, like grown adults standing outside on the street corner, singing around a barrel full of fire, just singing to each other or singing with each other. You wouldn't see that in civilized society today. You know what I mean? Now they'd be throwing the drum down the street and burning it up, but you wouldn't see people singing singing together. It just wouldn't be something that people would do for any reason. But there it is in the movie. The makeup, I think you have to give credit. Remember, this is 1976, 77. These movies are being made. So was the makeup the best? It was probably pretty damn good, as far as the injuries and so forth. Have you ever seen like these boxers after a fight? They do look battered and bruised and fucked up in the face. The commercials in Rocky 2, meaning the commercials that Rocky is trying to do, but he can't read the cards, the dummy cards, as the director calls them. A lot of unpolitical correct things, which is fun. But that is always a sequence that sticks out from Rocky 2. Rocky 2, I think, really benefited from this theatrical experience, especially seeing the movies back-to-back today. Rocky 2 has always kind of been like the unloved child of the Rocky movies for me. It's just like a repeating thing, and okay, this time he gets the title, and we move on, we move forth. But you can see the character development. You can see Adrian kind of coming into her own in these. She's kind of accepted the life of the boxing wife. She says, win. They have their child. Of this universe, if you want to call it that, or this world of Rocky, Rocky Jr. has always been let's just call it what it is, a disappointment. I mean, you have that famous YouTube clip from Rocky Balboa of Rocky yelling at his son in the street. So this theater, Cinemark, is doing like a 6-day Rocky marathon, and I missed the first day last night. I didn't put the pieces together. So today I had to go to this other theater, Regal, which was fine, except they had the talking child in the theater, which is not the movie's fault, obviously. I mean, no director or film writer wants a child in the theater crying and ruining the film for real movie fans, like I suffered through. But Cinemark's showing this whole damn thing. So tomorrow it will be Rocky 3 with Mr. T and Hulk Hogan. Kind of like, Rocky really gets into the 80s, I guess you could call it. I think that movie was 1983. I guess that was the first Rocky movie of the 80s. So in the 80s you had Rocky 3, 4. I guess Rocky 3 came out in the summer of 82, I guess. Rocky 4 was December of, 85? Just in time for Glasnost and Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev and all those guys. And then Rocky 5 was the turn of the decade. I think Rocky 5 came out in 1990. So anyway, folks, I'm saying go see the damn Rocky movies, or go see any movies. You got Dirty Dancing, you got Raiders of the Lost Ark, you got all these wonderful movies that are playing. Of course, somebody has to pull their little car in my space. But Rocky movies are fun. The Comeback Classics, MikeMessier.com. The YouTube channel, Mike Messier, all the wonderful things you're seeing on the Mike Messier YouTube channel, the interviews with celebrities, the Michael McGlone interviews getting a lot of views, the Jonathon Silverman, Randy Couture, the natural UFC legend, Maria Kanellis from Playboy, and so forth. all these wonderful interviews and all these wonderful programs. Messier Peace Theater, episodes 1 through 5. Episode 6 recently finished. We'll do something with that. Messier Mantra. MikeMessier.com. All your wonderful Mike Messier things on Mike Messier YouTube channel. Thanks.